Guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. 9 o'clock location. We have Gosufer starting as, well, approximately 9, as the black Protoss, bottom right-hand corner. So black versus white in more than one sense of the word, I guess. Starting as the white Protoss at the 4 o'clock location. This is on Ascension. This is the first match of Group C from Hasuleague BSL Season 13. And pretty good group here. I don't think this is as much of a group of death, but I know Gosufer is a strong player. I know White's a pretty decent player from Gosufer from Chile, Gosufer from Peru? From Peru, White from Chile. So it might be a low latency game. But other side of the bracket, we also have Phoebus out there, and we have Too Sexy For You as well. And we saw them in the round of 32. And I know they're also decently strong players. So I'm expecting some pretty good matches out of this. PvP on Ascension means one thing, theoretically, is Zealots in the early game because of that lack of ramps. And I feel like every time I have seen, at least in recent memory, when I've seen a Protoss player attempt to go for the Gateway Assimilator build as an opener rather than 2-gate, they have paid for it in one fashion or another. However, Gosufer going ahead and planting that Gateway. Initial scout out for White, which is going to give a slight economic lead to Gosufer, but it's going to give the early scouting lead to White. I actually feel like on mirror maps like Ascension, scouting timing is actually really critical. And it looks like it is going to be Gateway Assimilator. Interesting from both players, so ignore me as far as the 2-gate opener. So it's going to, so mirror builds thus far. This is going to give the slightest of edges to Gosufer as he's moved out to get the scout second. I think with the timing of the Dragoon, if he goes, I have to assume he's going to go Zealot. Never mind, he's going to go, did we get a Zealot on this edge? Both players actually opting to go Cybernetics Core before Zealot initially on a rampless map. Now getting the Zealot on both sides, so identical mirror builds. And so the ever slightest edge going to Gosufer, although his probe a little bit delayed here in getting that scouting information. And it's going to be, I still think he's going to be able to get eyes though, overall. And I'm almost wondering if, we'll see where this Zealot starts moving for White. It is possible because he has, and Gosufer knows where his opponent's spawn is. Looks like he's going to go ahead and hold up and try to block this gap. This probe should be able to slip by without too much trouble. Be able to just walk into the main. This is an advantage of going that Cybernetics Core build. Looks like that range started a sliver later for Gosufer. Is you can get that Dragoon out a little bit faster to deny information to your opponent. This probe not even taking that much damage, but the longer this probe can actually hang out in the space, confirming that third pylon interior to the base, by the way, the longer this probe can hang out in the base, the better. Gosufer's probe wiped out, opposite side of the map. White's probe getting taken out as well. I also like that, I want to say this is an appreciation to White. I appreciate that White actually went with the color white, just for absolute clarity. The probe able to get out of the base, I take it back, eating a photon shot. That is sad. The probe thought he was home free. He's like, yes! I will be able to return home to my family, and then explodes. Range halfway finishing. It looks like this is just straight up mirror all the way across the board. Probes dead even. Supply count at this moment dead even. As far as the timing of the robotics facility, it looks like it is a slight edge to White. So in these situations, it's going to come down to who micros better. I like that White also is moved a little bit to a more aggressive forward position to kind of plug the gap and also get potential aggressive scouting. So if there is any sort of aggressive play, he would be able to scout it out. I feel like these are very passive builds for a map like Ascension. Second gateway dropping for both players as well. So they're going for 2-gate. So what this oftentimes comes down to is oftentimes, you know, there's the 2-gate, you get your natural expansion. It comes down to who fields their troops and catches who off guard as far as troop positioning at some point in the match. I feel like that can be the decider when it's just flat mirror builds like this. Gosufer moving some Dragoons out. He actually might be able to loop in from the north and get some free damage on the high ground. There is a Zealot outnumbered, but keep in mind, there's also that misfire rate from the high ground. Natural expansion, Nexus being dropped earlier. And also a shuttle being built before the observer. Interesting. Curious about the decision to go shuttle before robotics facility and other units. You can see Gosufer looking for an opportunity to get some free hits and get that done. Did get a lot of base damage on one Dragoon. Let's see if he can walk out with this. Microing against the Zealot, retreating to the high ground. So a lot of base damage on one Dragoon, and it looks like most of these, well, it looks like kind of equivalent base damage, but it's spread out across two other Dragoons. But critically, Gosufer did not get scouting information, and I don't think he was able to confirm whether a natural expansion was up or not. He has his own observatory. I don't see it looks like the observer just hang out at the natural expansion, potentially for Dark Templar. This observer going to hang out at this natural expansion for Dark Templar potentially as well. The robotic support bay up for white, so he has opted to go for a more aggressive Reaver play. And if he can find an engagement point and get it aggressive with this, he might be able to win the game outright. However, if he gets caught out of position or scattering troops walking up high ground, something along these lines, if Gosufer can catch the shuttle out of position, he will be able to win the match from there. The other question is when, so we have the robotic facilities, when do these Reavers get fielded? And how long does it take them to join the fray? 2 additional gateways being plopped down for Gosufer. So white is going to be at a disadvantage in production in a minute or so. He's moving out to go ahead and grab his natural expansion behind this. And so the delay with the shuttle and the Reaver, I'm wondering if he's just going to move out with it and try to get something accomplished. It's going to get scouted immediately by this observer. And this might be the deciding moment of the match. As that observer here is going to see Dragoons, but the Dragoons moving forward, looking for the shuttle to engage across this corner. Wow. And this was that moment I was talking about where white might find Gosufer's troops out of position. Potentially. The Reavers can attack that high ground if that observer makes its way back across. They can pick off some shots. And it looks like he is going to have that happen, engaging the Zealots, getting on top of the Dragoons. It looks like one of them going to be taken out. So white getting critical early advantages. There's Reaver in the background, but it doesn't have shuttle protection. Getting nice spread damage right there. The Reaver being dropped, counter from white. And I don't know that this Reaver's long for life. Yeah, it's wiped out. Now that natural expansion, very exposed. Keep in mind you have 4 gateways worth of reinforcements and a long re-engage point, but this Reaver might be able to get probe kills in the midst of this. At the very least, natural expansion mining is not happening. A nice concave engagement. The Reaver and shuttle moving forward, and if they can start attacking these Dragoons as they spawn, that will end up winning the game for white. The Reaver getting wiped out to the north, though, from the reinforcement point. 4 Dragoons trying to engage, so it looks like Gosufer is going to be able to remain in this match. The Nexus is not going to get wiped out. This was delayed mining time overall, but Gosufer by no means out of it. So 4 Dragoons now able to press those units back. That was mostly disrupted mining time. Gosufer doing a great job of protecting probes in the midst of that. White's going to have another shot at it, though, because he's got 4 Dragoons grouping up. However, there are going to be reinforcing Dragoons, another Reaver on the forward field, and that shuttle wasn't preserved in the midst of this. Let's see if he can get them in position. However, it's going to be a while before the Reaver joins the fray, and that's going to be the difference in these engagements. That Nexus has taken a considerable amount of damage. Nice focus fire from white, but now with that Reaver there, the rest of these units being pushed back. So the natural expansion, undeterred. I got to give it to Gosufer for keeping up with his macro and continuing to build probes in the midst of all of that action. And oddly enough, despite everything, the one advantage white got was mostly just a damaged natural expansion. He's finally adding 2 additional gateways. There actually will be a brief period of time here where Gosufer is going to have a slight swing, although he's not going to be aware of it. 5th and 6th gateway being dropped. 2nd Reaver being produced. Another observer being fielded. This observer going ahead. I think there's an observer here. I see a little, yeah, it's hard to see in the midst of there. Looking at the mini-map, trying to find it in between everything else. But it's getting a good look at the natural expansion, seeing that 2nd gas being just taken right this moment. Gosufer now opening up his own front door. 2 Reavers here, another shuttle being produced. That shuttle depending on micromanagement, could be the difference in engagement. Right now, supplies again dead even, showing how evenly matched these two players are. And I got to say, I'm very impressed with Gosufer's PvP that in repelling that previous attack. And also having the wherewithal with observers to know a situation and not panic or overcommit and just keep building probes in the midst of that. Dragoons are positioning out towards that 3 o'clock base, potentially to go ahead and pick that up. Gosufer moving out to his 6 o'clock base to grab his third. And it's like these guys have they've got the same manual as far as PvP goes. Slight probe lead for White. What might be the difference in winners here is who gets their Templar Archives up first. Citadel of Dune being built was already online for White. He's starting to get that Zealot leg upgrade. He's got his own forge going for level 1 weapons now. In the midst of this, level 1 weapons also starting for Gosufer. It's like very, very, very even game. Very, very mirrored builds. Shuttle and Reaver. Let's see if I can get a good count on the Dragoons. It looks like you've got 1 Dragoon over a full control group here. 4 Dragoons over a full control group, so 16. So it would be disadvantageous for Gosufer to engage this once he has that observer over the high ground. Should be aware of that, although he needs to be careful that that observer doesn't get picked off in the midst of everything. This observer finally getting picked off the natural expansion. We hear the explosion rather than getting eyes on it. And Gosufer going ahead and kind of spreading out. That observer getting picked off. The Reaver's dropping, getting some initial fire, but one of the Reavers getting taken out. However, White's Reaver's a little bit delayed in the engagement. So potentially with that explosion, maybe he could even things up. But this is high ground to low ground. White engaging fairly well, but never mind. Gosufer continuing to pound away at this. The Reaver still raining down fire from that high ground undeterred. This Reaver has been taken out. The Dragoons trying to walk up. And it looks like White is easily going to be able to batter the troops on the ground. So he's still got 5 Dragoons and a Reaver. Gosufer now misstepping and starting to fall behind. Significantly behind in supply. Leg speed up. He's grabbed this 5 o'clock base. Or sorry, 6 o'clock. What do we want to call that? 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. DM White is going to take a little bit of a... So feeling comfortable taking this base, but taking a little bit of a later expansion. Gosufer just hoping that White doesn't press into this. 3 more gateways being tacked on. There's that Templar Archives. I think this might be the factor here for White is getting Psystorm much, much earlier, it looks like, than Gosufer. And on top of that, I think I saw in that queue a Dark Templar potentially being fielded, or is this going to be Gosufer's Dark Templar? Looking for the Dark Templar being produced. Let's see if I can find it out in the field. There's a Dark Templar for White. Helps with map control, especially with that last observer being picked off. Knowing that those Reavers potentially needed to be filled back in. I think that's the actual most interesting aspect of PvP, is when Reavers get picked off, is once Templar Archives is in there, is like how many observers got picked off where you need to refill in the Reavers versus Dark Templar that can be filled. It's kind of a nice little pseudo rock, paper, scissors game sense sort of thing happening there. Gosufer grabbing a cannon. So sensing the potential Dark Templar threat. Photon cannon there at the 3 o'clock location for White. These guys, do they just play each other all the time and just know each other? Because they're inside each other's head right now. 16 supply count lead for Gosufer. Still anyone's match, though. Dark Templar running out. Gosufer looking to engage. Unfortunately, he's going into it a little bit piecemeal, and I think where White can get a better engagement, and he is getting a better engagement overall. Gosufer falling back to the high ground, looking to re-engage. The Reaver is still not in the mix of this battle, and these troops are very grouped up. Huge explosion, doing a lot of damage. The Reaver was wiped out in the midst of that, but that one Reaver shot really softened up all of those Dragoons. And Gosufer trying to... Yeah, and also didn't have a cohesive attack force. There is 2 Archons moving up to try to provide some support. Some Psystorm nearby to rain lightning over those probes, obliterating a lot of them. Gosufer trying to reinforce to this 3 o'clock base, flooding out the probes now. And White, realizing his stay has been overextended, trying to back up to re-engage with the Zealots, and he is continuing to careen down and attack this. I thought he might just get the win and back out. Instead, re-engaging another Psystorm over that Dragoon line, a Zealot eating a little bit of that fire, but this might be the GG moment right here. This third base getting wiped out. Gosufer trying to peel in reinforcements, but it's a long distance from his main. More reinforcements moving up from white as well. Plus, you've got this High Templar that's not going to have a third Psystorm, but potentially can rebuild that energy. This Nexus is certainly going to fall in the midst of this. A single... Yeah. I was hoping that was a Dark Templar moving out there from Gosufer for a counterattack opportunity, but losing his third, trying to move in with reinforcements. But more Zealots flooding in to engage this. He wants to try to save this third. I just don't think it's going to happen. More units flooding out. The Zealots can just group fire now. Repositioning to the south to avoid Dragoon fire and make that happen. So that third Nexus is down. And Gosufer potentially has to win it with the troops he has. The supply, as far as the supply in army count, it's just about even. The Dragoon peeling off to the north. White needs to refield an army and defend. And if he can do that, he should win here. Gosufer doesn't look like he's moving out a probe to re-grab that third. I think he knows he's in a situation where he just needs to dive in and attack and make it happen. 2 additional gateways plopping down. And this has been really a who has better map control and positioning play. Double Forge, by the way, in the background. Level 1 weapons, level 1 armor versus just level 1 weapons. So Gosufer also going to be engaging an upgrade down. He's getting his own Psystorm in the midst of this. You can see him kind of fielding that armor. He is grabbing the Nexus again. So it looks like instead of trying to press into white and end it here, he's going to try to grab a double Nexus and hope that he can hold. So grabbing at the 6 o'clock location, also going to grab at the 9 o'clock location. White is already grabbing his 4th expansion in the upper right-hand corner. So basically, Gosufer is saying, okay, well, you got to get it. If you want to win this, you got to do your due diligence scouting. And you got to come to me, potentially. Very, very, very exposed 9 o'clock. As soon as that scouted, that would have been taken out. 2 High Templar being loaded in the shuttle for potential storm drops. Main's mined out, by the way, for both players. Natural expansion still has decent mining capacity, but you can see some distance mining probes here at the 5 o'clock. Several High Templar. They're to engage. Probes. Are they going to get caught? Oh. So pull off vision there. The probe's just eking by. A sliver and a hair. White moving into a situation. Gosufer not reacting. Several of the Dragoons in that back end being Psystorm. I don't see any High Templar here for White, so this might be a moment where Gosufer is able to get right back in this match as he's able to unload Psystorms on the Dragoons. However, it looks like that level 2 weapons upgrade is too sizable an advantage, and there was a huge Psystorm drop at the natural expansion in the midst of that. So Gosufer calling GG. White takes game 1 in a very, very close, very intense match, top to bottom. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.